Hi, welcome everyone to Boss versus Coach. I hope you had a great Diwali and a fantastic festival season. We are back again with another uncomfortable conversation on a topic which most of you feels, but only few of you admits, and that's about burnout. Almost everything in the world will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. Burnout Burnout is not just fatigue, it's chronic exhaustion, cynicism, and sense of detachment that comes from your continuously chasing expectations that never ends. It doesn't happen overnight. It creeps in quietly, disguised as dedication, hidden behind ambition, and justified by success. You often tell yourself it's just a phase, just a quarter, just a project, just a weekend, until one day your body hits pause and you realize that you have been running on empty. But all this at what cost? Cost of yourself, cost of those who should really matter to you. Burnout has a trap as well. Our corporate world today has glorified word burnout by celebrating it. Surprising but true. We celebrate burnout, we celebrate exhaustion, we celebrate people spending long hours, we celebrate people always on the busy button. We celebrate people who are multitasking and multitasking endlessly. We celebrate people who are in this never ending Olympics of being always on. So tonight we will peel off the layers of burnout. We'll understand what burnout is all about and what should be the early signs of recognizing a stage of burnout? What can you do to avoid getting into this trap? And how can you still be successful without losing on yourself? I have with me my host and colleague, Olivia. Olivia, welcome to the podcast and very serious, very deep, yet something which people are not recognizing burnout.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think it's quite seductive to think that this is new, but throughout my career, which was long enough, being busy really was that kind of badge that a lot of us were proud to wear. And I remember actually um, a couple of times noticing that when people spoke to me, they spoke about, oh, but you're always so busy. Gosh, you never get space in your diary. You're the busy person. You're doing so much. And I remember the first time I heard that, I felt like a little puff of pride. It's like, yeah, I'm super busy. I don't have time to even think. And the second time I thought, yeah, I am super busy. I don't even have time to think. And that's when I thought, do I want to be thought of as a busy person? And the words that came in the back of my head was, yeah, a busy fool. It's very hard to be busy and wise. So I think there's something really important here for all of us to grapple. What's the busyness doing? And what's it stopping us being able to do?
Very, very true. So, Olivia, how come burnout became a performance metric?
I think it's about that awful thing of people being seen as cogs. You know, you have to be super productive. You have to be able to be utilized as much as possible. Um, so if you're the sort of person who can put yourself forward for every opportunity, if you're the sort of person who'll work till 11 o'clock at night and beyond, then you know what? You're a pretty cheap resource because you're doing the work of two people. So, the faceless corporate entity is going to love someone who takes away the cost of employment of others. Um, and like I say, that if you keep getting stroked for doing a certain thing, you start to lean into that stroke. So if someone says, I love that you'll always put your family and your life back and work forward, you know what's important. You kind of start to believe it.
And Olivia, for our major chunk of followers, supporters, our partners in this movement of boss versus coach, which are the young professionals, which are Gen Zs, which are mid managers. What are the early signs of burnout for them? And why do you think they feel and they fall into this trap of burnout? Is it because the corporate world has glorified it as exceptional? Is it because they feel the fear of missing out if they are not doing extra, extra, and extra every time?
I think it's really complex. I wish that there was a simple A, B, C of what's going on here. But there are lots of things. I think there is an expectation. If you're any good, you'd be doing more work. You'd be showing everybody that you're ready for the next step or promotion, that you're one of the good guys. I think there is something about a fear of missing out. I think, there is, well, if everybody else is doing it and I'm not, I will fall behind. So I have to step up. Um, and I think how do you notice the slow creep of burnout? I think that takes quite a bit of mindfulness. I think you actually have to, maybe at the end of a week or the end of a month, just look back and think, what did I do on the work side of things, and what did I do on the me side of things? And if you notice that you turned down a bunch of stuff for yourself, like you didn't do the gym that one time because there was too much work to do. So, okay, so you can notice that. If maybe you cancelled lunch or dinner because there was a bit of a deadline that needed sorting, okay, you can notice that. And it could be that in any one week, it's not so bad. But when you start to notice patterns over time, is there a situation where you always end up not having lunch or just grabbing something at your desk because the work is so important? And it's about just noticing that you are giving up a little bit more than you are comfortable with. And we all have different tolerances, and I think, if people want to give up their own free time for work, that's a choice. All of it is only a choice. And we've talked about that so many times before. But is it a choice that's comfortable for you? Is it a choice that feels balanced within the choices that you want to make? That you're not just always choosing work, you are sometimes saying no, and putting up maybe a little boundary that says, actually, my weekends I'll never work. Or maybe I'm happy to work my weekends, but I won't work in my evenings. Or maybe I will just always have lunch and spend my time. Whatever your specific things are, noticing that they're being broken and really maintaining those boundaries, I think, is part of the key.
So that brings me back to my most important idea, and something which I very closely resonate with, and that's the fear of saying no.
Yeah.
Is it the fear of saying no that led to burnout? And why I'm saying so is because I have seen a lot many cases around me in my career, including myself, wherein fall trap of burnout just because we cannot say no at the right time, or we do not want to say no when it's needed.
I think there is something about having a little bit of self-respect in this. But also, there's a real big challenge because psychological safety, in terms of the psychological contract with organizations, is so thin now. A lot of people will say, well, I can't say no to my boss or I'll lose my job. That is a horrible thing to have hanging over you. But I would say if that's generally how you feel, like I can't progress in this place if I say no to my boss because basically they'll step in my way, or I'll be the next person out the door when there's redundancies. I'd say try and look for something else now before it gets to that crisis point, because if that's how you can feel, you're never going to thrive in that place. And
Agree.
whether that means, I remember so clearly me and a bunch of my colleagues on a Sunday night would always all feel sick because we were waiting for the boss to say, oh, I need a deck doing for the morning, or oh, have you done this huge, great piece of analysis? I need it by lunchtime on Monday or by breakfast on Monday. And so you'd spend your whole Sunday absolutely terrified that you were going to get one of these emails. And a bunch of us noticed that we were all going through this. And so that bunch of us all talked about where else could we work where we don't feel like this? Can't be like this everywhere. And so, I think that that is one of the threats for a leader who makes people feel less than if they don't go the extra mile constantly and burn themselves out. You're going to lose great people.
And Olivia, if I say, let's take example of our book. So B is boss and B is burnout. C is coach and C means coming back to your comfort zone. Now that brings me to the next question. What role do you see a coach can play in helping one coming out of the situation of burnout? And why should the youngsters, the mid managers, even the leaders look for a coach to be at their side while dealing these situations?
Well, a leader who's a coach, I would hope would understand the concept of boundaries. I would hope would notice the behavior change in people as they go from normal to tired to chronically tired. And a leader as a coach, I would hope, would ask the questions because that's what we as coaches do. And I think that a leader who's a coach and just notices and goes, oh, Mohit, how was your weekend? Oh well, boss, no, it's all right. I was working all weekend on that project, and it's like as a leader, you must hear that and go, we were all doing it. I'm so sorry. How do we stop this happening in the future? Maybe we as a team need to figure out how we stop crunching into deadlines in this way. And again, it's a bit like looking after yourself to look for a better job if you are in a place where your leader is a big scary boss who just shouts at you. There is something about when times are quieter, how do you stop the busy times being so awfully busy? How do you stop those weekend long overnight constant demands? It's all choice, as we said before.
Agree. So that brings us to the end of this exciting podcast. Olivia, your closing remarks, anything you want to tell our audience, which can help them, uh, first of all, find out if they are moving in this direction of burnout, thinking that they are wishing and they are succeeding, and how to step back, take a pause, and step back.
I think probably choose your boundaries. Choose your boundaries. What is the thing that you don't want to give up for anyone? What are the things that make you a better person, a better colleague? Whether that's getting, your afternoon coffee out of the office, whether it's seeing your family in the evening, whether it's actually having your weekends to do your own activities. If you feel like it's really hard to say no to everything, pick one boundary that you're going to actually establish and maintain and do it. And notice what happens when you do and when you don't. When you explain, don't just say, no, I won't do that. You can go, well, this is the compromise. I can't do that. I will make sure everything's done before 6 o'clock so I can go home and go on my run or whatever it is. So it is about finding understanding, but it starts with understanding what you need and creating a boundary around it.
Absolutely. And that brings me to a very wonderful thought that burnout is not a trophy for dedication. It's a sign of something going off balance. It's for the viewers, it's for all of us to think if we wish to fall trap of burnout or we want to decide our way. There is no fear of missing out because you are not missing on anything except yourself, your life, your happiness, and your health. So the choice is yours. Consider it or discard. Leave it to you. But burnout is a serious disease. Burnout is a serious concern. Burnout is seriously increasing. Please don't add more glorification to it. Please don't celebrate it further. Take a pause, ask yourself if it is worth it. On that note, I wish you all a good day and a good week ahead. Thank you. Keep watching Boss versus Coach. Keep supporting Boss versus Coach and look forward to adopting in your lives. Bye bye. Thanks, Olivia.